Welcome back to the Bob Harden Show. And now here's your host, Bob Harden.
Thanks so much for joining us here on the show. It's brought to you in part, or we're providing you news and commentary rooted in a commitment to individual liberty, personal responsibility, limited government, and the rule of law. Coming up, we'll visit with Michael O'Neill, Vice President for Landmark Legal Foundation. Right now we have with us Adam Mangana, I should say. He's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Optima. Adam, thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
Bob, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here with you and your listeners.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. Tell us about Optima.
So Optima Academy Online is the world's first school in the metaverse. And if your listeners can imagine, we can actually take students back in time to the founding of our country, teach the true history of our country. And all this is done not on Zoom School or the checkerboard of faces, but all this is done through the use of virtual reality technology and AI, making delivery of education much more affordable and accessible. So families, no matter what their zip code are, can access a world-class education.
So is this available across the United States? What's the availability?
Right now, it's available in Florida completely tuition-free. So one of the very exciting things, most of your listeners have voted for school choice, but they don't necessarily use school choice in practice. There's over $4 billion now allocated to parent-directed funding in Florida, meaning parents can become the CEO of their own education. This is an incredibly powerful policy change that has allowed families to access options like Optima Academy Online completely tuition-free. So families in Southwest Florida are benefiting from this by using their educational savings accounts funding, and they can purchase courses or they can enroll in the full-time school.
So interesting, Adam. So people who are critical of online learning, for example, suggest that they're missing the classroom experience. Can you comment?
Yeah, absolutely. So we would agree that the Zoom school model, where you're basically doing 8 hours of a school day on a conference call, is an absurd model and doesn't really work for kids. What makes Optima different is this is a medium that students are already very comfortable with. This particular generation grew up with Roblox and Fortnite. They're familiar with the metaverse. We're in a social VR platform, meaning students are present together and they're interacting socially. And teacher becomes Miss Frizzle. Many of your listeners remember the Magic School Bus. Now the teacher can enter the parts of a cell or take them to the moon for a lunar landing. This really optimizes for focus, and focus is what leads to great student outcomes.
That's terrific, Adam. So I understand that your focus is on classical education. If that's correct, you can comment. And also, what does that mean?
Yeah, no, this is a critical piece. I mean, what we're doing at Optima, what makes us unique is we are marrying 21st century technology with first century wisdom. We read Plato and Epictetus and Socrates, and we travel back into the best times in Western civilization. We're unapologetic about teaching, as I mentioned, the true history of the United States. This is a great way to marry, first century wisdom, which we think is time-tested and timeless, with a medium that the students of today can relate to.
That is fantastic. So how many students do you have? Can you give us an idea of the magnitude of what's going on right now and where we stand in the timeline for development of this?
Absolutely. So right now we have 1,500 students in the state of Florida taking our courses completely tuition-free. We are accredited. We're also an approved virtual instruction provider. So anybody who lives in the state of Florida and is a resident of Florida can attend our school for free. We are expanding this year, which is really exciting. We're going to be expanding to Texas. Texas just launched another $1 billion ESA program. And so we felt like we've nailed it in Florida and we're getting ready to scale. But Florida is home base and Florida is where our focus has been. And so we want to make sure that all Florida families know about these options.
So I think I looked at your website. By the way, the website is Optima Academy Online. Optima Academy .online. I hope you check it out, especially if you have young people in your life that might qualify to be students. Now, I understand that full-time student is one option. Are there other options for using Optima?
Great question, Bob. So yes, because we're an approved virtual instruction provider, you can take it full time or you can take courses. And many, many students we're seeing, even if they decide for athletic purposes or social purposes, they want to be in person in school, they can still take supplemental courses, or they can access our VR field trips for educational supplementation. So families have many options in Florida. Florida is leading the way in terms of the educational savings account program, and with charters and with school choice more generally. We have great leadership in Florida. I think the market, and I think, Bob, your listeners would agree with this, the market is demanding that the power be in the hands of families. And that is a very, very different place than we've been. Parent-directed funding will transform the way people access education. And Optima feels a huge responsibility to make sure we preserve this high-quality content, this classical education, for this era where parents are going to be choosing, and there'll be a lot more options in the marketplace.
It sounds very exciting, Adam. And right now, of course, kids sitting in a classroom, 30 kids, just seems so antiquated. And what you're really bringing to the education environment is really the next generation of the opportunities for, I'm going to call it, low cost and highly efficient education opportunities.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the future of education is now, and it's hyper-personalized. It used to be, right, that we were trying to standardize everything. Everybody got the same thing. And the problem with that model, right, much like communism, is that it doesn't allow for innovation the great American way. And so when we can hyper-personalize, it's not just about maximizing utility, it's about maximizing human potential. And that's what I believe the founders envisioned. And that's how we preserve this great country. We give folks what they need. And I think there are two major innovations taking place that's going to allow that to happen at scale. One is the policy innovation of parent-directed funding and educational savings accounts. And the second is this ability to deliver hyper-personalization through the use of artificial intelligence. And that technology will transform low-cost, high-quality education at scale, regardless of what zip code you live in.
Well, thank you, Adam. Can you comment at all on parental involvement in the education process through Optima?
Yes. I mean, I think one of the critical pieces is now parents get to become the CEO of their child's education. Parents are demanding a more modular delivery, meaning they can pick and choose what works best for their child, and they're not tethered to whatever house they can afford. Yeah. And so parents can be very engaged. The great thing about Optima, though, is we bring great teachers into the home virtually. So just like Alexander became great, right, when Aristotle came into his home and tutored them, using virtual reality technology, we're bringing the best teachers in the U.S. into the homes of Florida students, regardless of their zip code. And so now access becomes a huge opportunity. So parents are certainly, it's a very transparent process. Parents are very aware of all of the content that we're delivering, but they don't actually have to be the teacher themselves, which is where I see virtual education going.
Adam Mangana, again, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Optima. I hope you check out the website. It is optimaacademy.online, optimaacademy.online. Adam, really appreciate your commentary here on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bob, you have an incredible show. Love the folks in Southwest Florida. Thank you so much. And we're based in Naples. So come by, check us out online, and make sure you take advantage of educational savings accounts in the great state of Florida.
Thank you so much, Adam. All right, coming up, we're going to visit with Michael O'Neill. He is the Vice President for Landmark Legal Foundation. That and more right here on The Bob Harden Show on the Bob Harden Broadcasting Network.
Stay tuned for more of The Bob Harden Show here on the Bob Harden Broadcasting Network.